So the question is, what happens to Bitcoin if the stock market crashes? Well, we've already seen something similar during the pandemic period. Um, the big Bitcoin price is dependent on a lot of things, macroeconomic events, stuff like that. It's very sensitive to that, and you might have noticed that it's very highly correlated to the stock market. When the stock market goes up, often Bitcoin does, and when the stock market goes down, often Bitcoin does. Sometimes they diverge, but in recent years especially, they seem to correlate, very much so. And that's not because, correlation doesn't mean causation. It doesn't mean necessarily that Bitcoin is dependent on like company activity or whatever. What correlation really means is that they probably share similar fundamentals, and they react to similar things, not with each other, but with other things. So, Bitcoin and the stock market both depend on liquidity and a expanding money supply, and ideally low interest rates, and all that sort of thing. So, in good economic times, companies do well, but people also have a lot more money that they can, retail investors can spend on Bitcoin and this type of thing. So they're highly correlated. Now, Bitcoin ultimately is a store of wealth, and the other major store of wealth that is much more mature and has been around a lot longer, and pretty much only does that and nothing else, is gold. And gold is not correlated with the stock market. In fact, gold is one of these things that is considered what they call a safe haven. So one of the classic examples is, if war breaks out, a lot of people pull their money out of the stock market and even out of regular currencies and things, and they put it into safe haven assets. And one of the major ones is gold. Another one is, for example, the Swiss franc, because Switzerland has usually been seen as a kind of neutral country. It's not completely neutral, but it's pretty neutral, let's say, and therefore considered a safe haven place to put your money and keep it secure. Now, Bitcoin is supposed to be a safe haven. It positions itself, and people use it because it's a great store of wealth, arguably even better than gold in this respect. But the problem it has is that it's not mature yet. It's still early. There's still early days, and it has, a lot of people don't realize we're still really early on Bitcoin. It's probably going to go up a lot more. It's only just now that companies are starting to buy it. Governments aren't holding it yet in the same way that they hold gold reserves, for example. So we're still super early. There's a lot of maturation that is yet to happen. If you think about how to store Bitcoin, you can put it on an exchange, but it can be a little bit difficult to secure. Some exchanges, because Bitcoin is completely digital, hackers are able to potentially hack and steal coins, and it happens. It's easier for them to do that than it is to go rob a vault and steal gold bars, for example. And if you take your Bitcoin off an exchange and you do what's called self-custody, you keep it in your own wallet, it's very easy, and a lot of people do it now, that they make mistakes. So in a way, it's superior store of value to gold, but until it reaches full maturity, there are still some kind of major holes in that argument. With more innovation, the gap should be closed, and really it will, in my opinion, one day definitely be considered a better store of wealth than gold, but it's just not as mature a store of wealth as gold. Gold has thousands of years head start on Bitcoin, put it that way. And so if war broke out, let's say, like a major war, Swiss franc, gold would go up. Would Bitcoin? I'm not so sure. And you know, as we say right now, it's still highly correlated to the stock market. It still behaves more like a tech stock, quite frankly, than it does gold. But over time, as adoption increases, that should change. It should start behaving less like a tech stock. It should be less correlated to the stock market. It should be more correlated to things like gold. But we're just not there yet. It will take some time. It will take more people to understand it, to see its value, to start using it. Not only individuals, but companies and governments, etc. And we're getting there. I mean, if you compare it, I believe Bitcoin is now, I think, 15 years old. We have come so far, but at the end of the day, these things take time, and they can't be rushed. And yeah, it's difficult. Now, there's a lot of innovation in other cryptos, but Bitcoin, there isn't a whole lot of innovation, and there doesn't need to be, right? Because the way it was designed and the way it works, it's strong from the beginning. It doesn't need innovation. But the downside is that innovation is pretty helpful for driving adoption. You know, there's new features and people learn about it. It gets a lot of press. It's kind of exciting. Things like that. And that's what you see in the rest of the crypto market, a lot of innovation. But Bitcoin is like the boring old dinosaur that it does get the headlines in terms of the price action. When it shoots up and when it goes down, people talk about it. But that's all people talk about, the price. They don't talk about anything else. So it doesn't have innovation to really drive adoption. It just has speculation, which sometimes is more like mania and panic and fear. You know, mania and excitement and elation. It has all of that, but it doesn't have all the other stuff, new features coming out all the time. It has no excitement there to really drive adoption. So the adoption in a way for Bitcoin is a bit of a slow burner. And as that increases, you can expect it to behave less like the stock market, so that when the stock market crashes, Bitcoin won't necessarily crash. Now look, at the moment, it does correlate quite strongly with the stock market. It does also have its own 4-year cycles, but over time, you wouldn't expect it to crash. It's not often that gold crashes, for example, and it will behave more like gold in the long run. So I hope you found this useful for your understanding. Let me know what you think. Give this video a like, leave a comment, and I will see you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.